Most of you know that I've been a plant manager a few times, large plants, 24/7 plants, 365, always ran. Lots of issues going on in heavy industry. When you talk about EHS, we talk about production, engineering, capital improvements, financials. Quite often, I was approached by an individual that got to know me pretty well, would corner me individually in my office or out on the shop floor and ask me very candidly, how do you manage it all? With all the issues, how do you manage it? And you still seem to get home by 5 o'clock every day. How is that possible? Well, I'm going to go into that, and I think I've got 8 tips for you. Some of them you may do. Some of them, hopefully, will be the first time you've heard them, and then you can employ them and have a more balanced life. I have 4 adult children presently, going from 30 down to 22. They were very involved, but yet I made it to most of their games. I coached several of their teams, was almost always home for dinner. I'll tell you, 19 out of 20 days, I managed this pretty well. What was my secret? This is Joe Kuhn of Lean-Driven Reliability, bridging the gap between best practices that you know you should be doing and the reality that you walk into on Monday morning, your plans fall apart. What are some tricks? What are some lessons learned that can help you be successful? Well, I must say it wasn't luck. I had a system that how I tried to manage that resulted in me having a creative, successful, and balanced life. And I'd like to share those 8 points with you here. Let's take a look at those. Okay, you may not be able to do all of these, but depending on the role that you're in, I was in a leadership role, so I had a staff, so you may not be able to do some of these things. So let's take a look at them. They're listed here, and these are in no particular order, okay? Number 1, I spent a minimum of 30% of my time developing others. All of my time was on the shop floor with these individuals, one-on-one, Candor Rises one-on-one, right? And there was two-way development. They were telling me what they saw, and I was telling them the way I saw the business. We had 2 different lenses. I was tended to look more at the business, and they were looking down in their area. So we had information to exchange on the shop floor. I let them know how I make decisions, and delegated to them immensely. Delegation is a big part of this. But I'd let them know what my priorities were so they can make decisions for themselves and know that they had my backing. I empowered them to lead. I own all the failures. They own all these successes, and I told them that. Example of developing people. Previous video I talked about Alcoa University. It's a university I started to develop people, and my whole lead team was responsible for training people on key aspects of the business. We had 70 classes. Check out that video. It's pretty cool. Very proud of that. Number 2 is something called time span of control. You probably have never heard of this, but are you working in the appropriate time span for your job? Is your job to make sure that we make production today, or to get maintenance efficiency today, or maintenance reliability today? Or is your responsibility the week, the quarter, the year? And if your focus is on strategic changes in the business, are you getting pulled into the day-to-day? And why are you being pulled? Is it because you want to be pulled? You want to be involved? Or is it because the business needs you to be involved? So one of the things I did is train people on time span of control. For example, a supervisor is really working on performance of this shift. What's the next 24 hours look like? And this week, right? My job as a plant manager was to audit that and spend a very small percentage, under 5% of my time on today, and then much more time on 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. Where do we want to be as a business? Hopefully that makes sense to you. Urgent always trumps the strategic. So if you say, hey, I want to get involved in see how things are going in the day, you'll always get hooked into it. And before you know it, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you didn't work on anything strategic. Time span of control. I do my job and let the other people do their job. As an example, I don't know if this is a good example for most of you, but In baseball, the second baseman does not try to do the first baseman's job. If they do, there's chaos. Do your job and you have a team win. Team win, do your job, let others do their job. Audit. Okay, you're actually doing more harm than good. As a plant manager, if I go to the daily management meeting and start directing orders, giving people things to do, I'm making bad decisions because I don't have all the information, and I'm undermining all their leadership, okay? And I'm working more and they're working more. You're the problem if you're not working in the right time span of control. Daily meetings, it's a trap. It's a trap. It was the first thing I did when I became plant manager at the last plant, is I stopped going to the daily meeting. Everybody was freaking out that I stopped going to the daily meeting. I sat down with the superintendents, the second level leadership, and said, you guys are running this plant on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Me and my team are out. I also told my staff they couldn't go to the daily meeting. The whole organization was designed for micromanagement, and I cut the head off of the snake. Number 3, focus on the critical few. Critical few. You got 2 or 3 strategic initiatives that you're trying to drive at your plant. If you're trying to drive 15 things, you're going to lose. If you've got a critical 64, you're going to lose. Maintain the performance of every other facet of the business and pick 2 or 3 massive lever arms that are going to change the business. I think it could be reliability at your plant. Drive 2 or 3 initiatives, not everything. That is critical. Let's see. Everything else is noise. Oh, sorry, I'm looking down at my notes here and apologize for that. Getting a C. I love this one. I've got this in another video. You got your 2 or 3 critical tasks that you got to do. You're trying to manage everything else, and you get all these other projects come in on your list. Get a C on them. Decide which one you can get a C. Everybody wants to get an A+. They want to do perfect on every project that crosses their desk. That's a recipe for failure. If everything's critical, nothing's critical, right? So which projects come in and can you get a C on them? Hey, to do a good job on something, it may take you a full week, full time to work on it. What's it take to get a C? It may take 2 hours, right? Get a C. At the end of the year, your success is not measured by these things, the number of these things you got done. It's those 2 or 3 other critical measures that you're trying to drive because they have such a huge impact on your business, like reliability. Win the bureaucracy battle. This is one I see a lot of people fail at. It is very big. Simplify the processes. For example, overtime. Does a plant manager need to approve all weekend overtime? Come on. Delegate that down in the organization, give them the ground rules, let them make decisions faster. It also develops them and lets them understand what factors of the business are important to you. You got to win that battle. Delegate. I delegate those critical 2 or 3 factors that I'm trying to drive. That's where I spend my time. And things that are on autopilot and hey, let's just keep them the same. Don't go to that meeting. Delegate somebody else to be in charge of that. Maybe it's an environmental issue. Give that to one of your direct reports and let them run that. Give it to one of the engineers. Let them be responsible for it. Let them learn the business. Make decisions faster. Make better decisions. Okay? Delegate. Don't go to all the meetings. I've said this. You can't go to everything. Go to what's important and what's strategic for your business. Win the email war. I almost made this a separate category, but I threw it under bureaucracy. Win the email war. This is a big one. Have some rules for email. Number 1, on emails that come out, have the headings that say action required. That means I read that knowing that I've got an action required. Make that in red. Label it information only. That means I can read it in the next several days. I don't need to drop everything and look at it. Put an executive summary at the top. Make that so if you send me a 15-page email, oh my gosh, you've just commanded a lot of my time. And don't copy everyone that needs to be copied, or don't copy everyone just because it's easy to copy everyone. Copy those that are needed. Okay, email, win that bureaucracy war. Number 6, and this is kind of an unpleasant topic, but most of the time I've made organizational changes. I mean, not most of the time. Every time I've made some dramatic organizational changes, I'll be candid. You know, you train people, you coach people. Some have to go to the exit lounge, okay? Some of them are in the wrong role and you can move them to another role. Look to build your team that balances you out. I'm a mechanical engineer, okay? So electrical things I kind of got a blind spot for. So I'm looking to hire an electrical person to be part of my team. That helps me be more efficient because I can delegate electrical things to them, especially, you know, like capital projects, obsolescence, things like that. I look for aggressive leaders, people that want to take control, want to make decisions, and need minimum supervision. I look for leaders like that. They're stealing your time. People that don't make decisions on their own within their time span of control, that need approval from you on everything, are stealing your time, and they're stealing the organization's time. It's not just you. If they demand an hour a day from me, look what they're demanding from the rest of the organization. It's a huge drag on the organization, poor performers and people that can't run with their slice of the business. Number 7. Ooh, I kind of erased some of that. Number 7, I always had working lunches. I never took lunch, okay? I would always bring my meal to a meeting. My belief is that directly turned into home time. If I took a 30-minute lunch, or some of you folks may take an hour lunch, that just, you know, pushes work to the afternoon. I always work through that. I chose to have family time instead of longer break time for me at work. And this is supposed to say, own your calendar. Own your calendar. You know, everybody's got electronic calendar, and you've got, do you own it? Or are you a victim of it? I got a meeting. I'm so busy. Is that you? This is only a partial list, you know, of the things that I try to do, but I thought these were a little bit unique to me, and, you know, that I did religiously. This is not just time management and efficiency. It's really a system. You know, over here to the side, I wanted to make sure I commented on this. I've seen several leaders fail. They failed in their job because they didn't do these well. I've never had somebody that left the organization that I had to deal with a performance issue. Never, ever, ever has it been that they didn't know the subject matter or didn't know the technology. It's they couldn't manage their time. They couldn't focus, okay? That's why people fail in organizations, my experience. Okay. Also, I'll say, number 1, how did the organization respond to this? They loved it. They loved the responsibility, the speed of decision making, ownership of the business. They were being developed. They loved it. Who likes bureaucracy and micromanagement? Nobody does. Worse decisions are made, and it demoralizes the organization. Second thing, these also allowed me to sleep at night. How did I sleep at night knowing I had all these issues? There's always a crisis going on at a large plant. I knew because I had good people that were sponsored that could make decisions. Next week or tomorrow, got a challenge for you. Look at your calendar. Look at your electronic calendar, Monday through Friday of last week, and prove to yourself that you own your calendar. Are you spending your time on the critical, long-term strategic issues that are going to improve your plant? Or are you just consumed in the bureaucracy? Are you letting other people drive your calendar, or are you in charge of your calendar? Hey folks, begin your journey. This really isn't that hard. I'm trying to make it a little simple for you here. Probably a little too simple. If you need a coach, you've got access to my email in the link below. Send me an email, give me some comments. Let me know how you're doing on your electronic calendar in the comments. I'd love to see that. Later.